Before we start off introducing the panelists, we are delighted and privileged to have Shri Ajay Prakash Sawhney, the Secretary for MeitY and the brains behind actually driving the digital ecosystem in India, as our chief guest. So without much ado, I'll request Shri Ajay Prakash Sawhney to give the opening remarks and to also launch a report on the impact of open digital ecosystems on the Indian GDP. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jayjit Bhattacharya, and it's my pleasure to greet Amit Shukla ji, Kapil Kant, Kamal ji, Satish Babu ji, Anil Jain, Pranav Goel ji, and others who are present in this meeting. The Indian app ecosystem is something that has been growing very rapidly. Yet, if we compare it with the two locations that have contributed the maximum number of apps, China and the US, I think we still have a lot of ground to cover. Given the number of users we already have on the internet and the number of users which already the TRAI figure mentions it as more than 80 crore users, and the number of users that we can still add to this already huge number, say about another 40 crore users, 400 million users, for about 1.2 billion potential users of the internet. I think the number of services and the spectrum of choices available to them is still somewhat limited. In the app ecosystem, especially on the iOS side, a very large number of apps actually emerged from a major country having a land border, common land border with us. And this massive presence, in fact, almost a dominance of many segments of apps, has brought them huge dividends. These the earnings from these and from the Apple ecosystem, very large revenues actually flow to the app developers across the globe, and especially in that ecosystem our presence is relatively modest. On the Android phones and the Android ecosystem, and the presence is significantly more. However, and that of course is on account of most of the phones in India using that as the operating system. That either pure directly Android or some variant of that. So the number of apps is growing. However, there is still immense room for further growth. There is room for growth in bringing in all kinds of new services, covering new domains, and also ensuring that the services are available in all the languages in India. Because the vernacular users of internet, I think, are very large number, and the next 40 crore that we add will also largely be from that area. So it's exceedingly important that we help grow the app ecosystem here in India, and help those that are already into this activity to be able to offer their services in all the languages. Having structured workshops when for students and for young entrepreneurs is one of the ways in which we can make this happen. From Ministry of Electronics and IT, we would be happy to support any initiatives that emerge in this direction, where not just in a few prominent cities and locations where IT is already a huge activity, but also in smaller cities, towns, and other locations, wherever there are engineering colleges, wherever there are other colleges which are affiliated with the state level universities or local universities. And even in school, I think it's important that we fashion out the right kind of courses and in a manner of speaking, the kits which can be used by students so that they not only become familiar with the app ecosystem, but end up creating some apps even as a part of their regular work. So this is one direction in which we can help augment the number of people who are creating apps and new services. And in addition, I think it's very important to also question the the current status quo, which is dominated by either in the iOS, of course, it is the Apple App Store, but in Android, while several countries have a large number of app stores, in India, I think the very few app stores have been able to make a mark apart from the Google Play Store. Within the government, we have a mobile app store that we have operationalized. This used to hitherto be available only for government apps. Over the past year or so, we have opened it up to other app makers to come and register their apps and make them available through the government's mobile app store. This can also be popularized. But in addition to this, I think there is a need for more app stores to emerge. Because the app store, when Indian apps make a very serious creative effort, create some fabulous services, the services become popular with users in India, it would be very unfair for the app developers if significant part of the revenues actually get knocked off on account of use of the app stores themselves, hosting app stores, and if they have been very aggressively claiming a significant share of the revenue, especially when the apps register user base or revenue above a certain threshold. So it's very important to also reflect on how we can grow more app hosting stores, and that's also an activity which we would be very happy to back up, and I don't know whether we'll be able to provide financial support for that, but we'll definitely provide a lot of moral support and help more competition come in and get established in this very important area. So these are some of the thoughts that I have currently. Let's work together on this. It's wonderful to see a follow-up session after the IIGF. IIGF has given us a wake-up call. We have been far too limited in our interaction with the internet governance ecosystem of the globe. India must pull its weight, proportionate to the number of users that we have on the internet. And it's great to see this community growing and gaining strength. My best wishes to all of you. Jai Hind.